Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining me. And we're going to be talking about yogurt and how to make it with raw milk. And I make this all the time, and I really enjoy it. But there's a few little things that you need to know in order to make it successful. Now, everybody knows that I love kefir with every fiber of my being, and I have it all the time. I mean, almost every day. But there are strains that aren't in kefir that I really want. Bifido is one of those strains. And I think we need an abundance of bifidobacteria because it's one of your biggest bacterias. It helps to control your immune system. But what's really interesting about bifido is that kefir actually feeds it. Because it's such a multi-diverse strain that's in our gut, it actually is the first bacteria you get when you're born. And so having kefir actually feeds that strain and makes it very strong, but it doesn't actually have the strain in kefir. So that's why I make these yogurts, because it actually has bifido in them, which supports all the bacteria you get. Because you have a diverse strains of bacteria in your gut. Your microbiome is unique to you, but there are certain ones, for instance, bifido, that you need that helps your immune system to function the way that it should. And when you don't have it, it has been linked to all kinds of things like obese and diabetic individuals usually have low bifido. People who are having autoimmune disease problems, those who are suffering especially with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or inflammatory bowel disease, all of those people have been shown to have low levels of bifidobacteria. So it's really important. And it's one of the things that I stress a lot on my website, especially now. People are having a lot of autoimmune diseases, and your immune system controls that. The bifidobacteria is helping to control and boost up your immune system. So you need lots of it. And I love this yogurt. We also have bifido in our kefir soda starter, which makes a delicious drink that you can drink. And you can also build up bifido with HMOs, which are human milk oligosaccharides, which are fermented prebiotic that helps to build bifido very rapidly and does it really, really well. So that's another thing. That's a whole other discussion. I've got videos and podcasts on that too, because I think it's really important. So let's get back to the raw milk yogurt. So I eat a lot of raw milk cheeses and yogurts. And I'm really just excited that you can make Yogurt Plus with raw milk. And it took me a little bit to understand how it worked. But I've been drinking raw milk for over 22, 23 years. And if you don't, raw milk is legal in our state here. And it is in some states. But in some states, you have to go through the farm. And the best place to know if you can get raw milk is to go to realmilk.com. And they'll show you what's in your area and the legalities of it. Because years ago when milk, during the war, and then some of the facilities that were doing the raw milk weren't clean, and so bacteria got into the milk and it made people very sick. Well, now we have much better sanitary conditions for milk, and there's a lot of benefits to raw milk because it has vitamin C in it, it has B vitamins, and it has the enzyme lactase, which helps you to digest the milk. And that's one of the reasons that I like it, because it has all the things. Not only does it have the vitamin C, because it hasn't been pasteurized. Once you pasteurize it, all of that gets killed. So there are a lot of benefits to it. But there's the farmers that sell it, they do a good job. They make sure you have a good dairy farm that does it, or you can get it at some stores. A lot of places are now selling it legally in the health food stores. So that's where I love that. It's becoming more and more prevalent everywhere. So throughout my life, I've witnessed that many foods that were once deemed to be super healthy are now being deemed very bad for you. And dairy is one of them. Often it's not the food, it's what we've done to the food. Like I said earlier, they had unsanitary conditions back years ago when they started pasteurizing milk, which did help a lot of people. And often it's not, so many people that are stopped drinking dairy. Well, what happens when they all stop drinking dairy is your body stops producing that lactase, the enzyme that you need to digest milk. So the enzyme lactase breaks down milk sugars and they are found in the lining of the small intestine, and they change the milk into absorbable compounds, glucose and galactose, which is if your body doesn't produce that enzyme, then you can't digest it, and you have bloating, and you have all kinds of problems. And so the good thing about raw milk is it has that enzyme because it hasn't been killed. If it's pasteurized, then that enzyme gets killed. So that's why more and more people they can't tolerate dairy. They don't do good with it because they don't have the enzyme to digest it, because the years of not having it is what's happened. I found a lot of benefits to it throughout the years. So it's just something I've always done for so long. It was something that I did after I had my third child, and she was struggling, and that was when I started to drink raw milk, and we saw such a change in our lives. And that's when I found kefir. It all kind of came together at that time, and it really has made a big difference in our life. We love it. So there are a few things you need to know about making this yogurt with raw milk, and I can help you get the benefits. And you'll get the benefits of the vitamin C and the B vitamins if you make this yogurt, and you have a delicious tart yogurt that I actually really love. I have a bunch of them in my fridge right now because I made a bunch of videos for this so I can help you. So I'll link the video description so you can go watch the video of how I make it, and the article that has more information on there. So, but it's super easy to make. So one thing I want to say before we get started with how to do all this is you cannot make L-Reuteri or L-Gasserai yogurt with raw milk unless you heat it and pasteurize it. And the reason being is that these yogurts are fermented for 36 hours. And so they tend to separate more because they're fermented for so long. But you don't get any L-Reuteri or Gasserai until the hour 30. So you need milk that is ultra pasteurized so it will denature the lactoglobulin in the milk and make it form a thick curd. Otherwise, you just kind of got a mess. It's separated. Almost all yogurts are heated, and so that they're ultra pasteurized, which allows the bacteria that they're putting in to be the most dominant one, which is what we want with L-Reuteri and L-Gasserai, is you want that to be the most dominant bacteria in there. So you ultra pasteurize the milk because raw milk has its own good bacteria in it. So it's going to compete with those different strains, and you're just not going to get what you need. So you have to do L-Reuteri for 36 hours because you don't even start getting L-Reuteri in the yogurt till the hour 30. But for this yogurt, the raw milk yogurt that I'm using the strain Yogurt Plus, which has bifido and streptococcus, other bacteria that are so good for you, that are very prevalent in other yogurts. But it's only fermented for 8 to 12 hours, depending on how thick a curd you want. And so it doesn't have the problems that the other yogurts have. So you can use raw milk with it. So, okay, if that makes sense. But just don't use raw milk with L-Reuteri, Gasserai. And if you do want to use raw milk, then you have to heat it and pasteurize it. So ultra pasteurize it, which means you have to heat it to 190 Fahrenheit and then let it cool down. So anyway, I just want to make that clear because a lot of people try to do it and it doesn't work. So here's some tips on making this raw milk yogurt. Okay, when you use raw milk to make yogurt, it won't form a thick curd because you haven't denatured the lactoglobulin in the milk. And you do that by what I said before, by heating the milk and ultra pasteurizing it. So that's why almost all yogurts are made with pasteurized milk. So what you want to do with this one, since you're not heating the milk and you don't want to lose the benefits, the vitamin C, the good bacteria and all that stuff, you need to add some milk powder to thicken it. And that will help it to, otherwise it's just going to be super runny. You can also use 2.5 teaspoons of gelatin if you don't want to use, you need 7 tablespoons of powdered milk for a quart. But you can also use 2.5 teaspoons of gelatin. I don't really like the texture with gelatin as much as I like the powdered milk, but you can decide what you want. But that is what helps to thicken the curd without heating it and killing all of the enzymes, the lactase, and all the vitamin C and B vitamins. That lactase, you need that in order to digest the milk, and it's super important. So you have to add those two things to make it thick and get the curd. Now, time and temperature or length of time is very important to allow a thick curd to form. So you want to heat your yogurt and ferment your yogurt at 110 Fahrenheit. That's the best temperature for this yogurt. If the temperature is lower, you risk it not getting the thick curd. So like if you do it at 104, you're not going to get as thick a curd as you would at 110. Temperature is very important with yogurts. They're very finicky, and most of them like the 110 temperature. But with raw milk, as long as you don't go above 118 Fahrenheit, you'll still get all the benefits of raw milk. So 110 is low enough that you still get the enzymes and you get the vitamins in it. So 110 Fahrenheit is best. Don't do it lower, because then you're going to write me and tell me that your yogurt's not thick. And I get this all the time. And it's because you did it at a low temperature. Now, length of fermentation time is also very important. And raw milk yogurt can be done in as little as 7 to 8 hours. But I like to go 10 hours. You can even go 12 hours. But it will make a thicker curd if you let it go longer, like the 12 hours. I usually do 10 hours. But sometimes I do 7 or 8 because I'm in a hurry. And it still has a curd. It's just a little bit thicker if you let it go longer. So if yours is not firming up, keep let it fermenting until it does. And make sure it's at 110 Fahrenheit. And what I do is I stick a little knife in my yogurt to see if the curd's forming. Now, it will get thicker in the fridge once you put it in the fridge, but you'll see a curd formed, and then you'll know that it's done. And you can let it go a little bit longer if you want. It's up to you. But then you want to put a lid on it and place it in the refrigerator to firm up. And I usually do that overnight, or 4 to 8 hours will allow it to really get the curd to be even thicker. So now raw milk has something that I wanted to tell you about. It has the cream on the top, that because it's not homogenized, the cream rises to the top on raw milk. So homogenization makes all of the protein molecules the same, so the cream doesn't separate. And that's what whole milk that's pasteurized does. But raw milk has that cream on the top. But when you're making raw milk yogurt, the cream doesn't have very much. It doesn't have very much lactose in it. It's like 3 carbohydrates versus 15 for milk, and all the lactose gets eaten out of the yogurt because it's fermenting. Those microbes are eating the milk sugars out of yogurt, making it tart. That's what makes it tart. Well, with the cream, there's not very many milk sugars in it. So it gets a very strong kind of a yeasty taste on top. It makes that the cream forms on top of the yogurt, just like it rises to the top in the milk, but it does have a more yeasty taste to it. So you can just scrape that off, or you can scrape off the cream before you make the yogurt if you don't like it. It really doesn't taste that sour or bad, but some people don't like it. But I kind of do. So I just sweeten it a little bit on top, and it kind of forms a little bit of a skin. And you can remove it if you don't like it, or just sweeten it, or remove it before you make it. And it tastes really, really good. Now, we are using, you can use a lot of starters to make Yogurt Plus. To make raw milk yogurt. And we use our Yogurt Plus starter, but you can even use store-bought starters or store-bought yogurts at the store, and just get 2 tablespoons of a starter and use that in the milk instead of our Yogurt Plus starter. And don't use more than 2 tablespoons of a previous bought yogurt, because you're going to get bacteria that's going to compete, and they like to dominate. So if you use too much, it's not better. They just start fighting with each other, and you don't get as good a result. So we have a great starter called Yogurt Plus that I love, that has the Bifido in it. Or you can buy a yogurt from the store. Make sure they're not sweetened. Just make sure they're the unsweetened variety. And you can look at the back to see the strains that are in it. It won't be as strong as buying a starter, because you don't know how long it's been sitting on the store shelves. But it still works. I still think it's great. And just put 2 tablespoons in place of the Yogurt Plus if you want to, as a starter, and you should get a beautiful yogurt. I enjoy different types of yogurts. We have a lot of yogurts that we sell. But for raw milk yogurt, I recommend using this one, this starter Yogurt Plus, or one from the store that looks similar, has similar strains, and you'll get a good raw milk yogurt. Again, don't use L-reuteri or Glyceride to make raw milk yogurt, because it won't work. So it's just one of my favorite yogurts is raw milk yogurt, and it just has a nice little soft curd and a wonderful flavor, a smooth and creamy texture. And one of my favorite things to do, I use it a lot as dessert, because I make it in these little cups, and I'll put jam on top. That'll be my dessert after dinner. I love it. It's just something I sometimes will eat as a snack, and it's just a great way to give you lots of nutrients. You get vitamin C from this, and you get lactase, you get enzymes, you get all kinds of vitamins, and it tastes good. It's fun to make. It's not hard to make either. And it's just, you just need to understand what's happening when it doesn't form a thick curd. So, and I can help you. We have lots of different yogurt makers. You can make it in, well, I recommend a lot of different yogurt makers. You can make it in a big batch. Luvelli makes a really nice, like quart or 2 quart, it might even be 3 quart jar. You can make it all at once. You can make it in little individual jars. In my video, I made it in 4 jars, made it larger amounts. It's up to you. But we have lots of ones we recommend. One of them I just put on my site. It's great. It's got a lifetime warranty. Here's the cool thing. And it allows you to, they'll give you extra jars if you post a picture on Instagram or social media. And that is called the Ultimate. And I'll put a link description below to all of the yogurt makers I use. This one has a lifetime warranty, which I really like, and it makes the little cups if you want little ones. But then Luvelli's fabulous yogurt maker for bigger batches. You can use sous vide, which I make my El Riro and gas around that all the time because it makes a bunch of jars for me all at once. So there's lots of different options we give you. Usually any yogurt maker will do to make this type of yogurt. El Riro and gas need different types of yogurt makers because they need to keep the temperature very low at 100 Fahrenheit. But this one you can probably just use about any yogurt maker there is. But I'll link it in the description below to help you. I'll link my starter culture and the recipe and the video. You gotta go see the video. It just kind of takes all of your worries and qualms about making raw milk yogurt. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you'll try it, and I hope you love it because there are huge benefits from getting lots of that bifidobacteria into your gut to allow it to thrive and do its job and keep your immune system strong. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.